Oregon football might have the most complete roster in college football, and somehow the scariest part of this team might still be getting better. I know that sounds like preseason hype because Oregon is talented before. They've been talented before, but this feels different. In this episode of the Big Ten Huddle presented by FanDuel, I want to show you why the latest signs coming out of Eugene point toward a team that may finally have everything lined up for a national championship run. Because the headline is not just, Dante Moore. While that can be a headline all in itself, it's not. It is not just the defensive line either. It's how all these pieces are starting to fit together at the right time. And there is one position group that could decide whether Oregon is merely a playoff team or the best team in the country. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that here a little bit later on. But here's where I want to start. Oregon's defense looks absolutely terrifying. Whoever plays them on Halloween, they're not going to need to dress up to be terrifying at all. Just put on the Oregon jerseys, all right? Not good for other teams, right? Dan Lanning said this is the best fall camp Oregon has had when it comes to attacking the football. Oregon has already had really good defenses, and Lanning is saying the group is attacking the football better than any of them. Now, you look at the defensive line. Amari Washington, Bear Alexander, Mateo Uyunglele, Tatum Tuioti, 4 seniors, 4 veteran playmakers, 4 NFL talents, 4 NFL talent on the inside, NFL talent on the edge, and this may be the best front Oregon has ever had. That is where the championship conversation gets serious. But it's not just there. I mean, it's all over the place, but that's where it's most serious. And this is the veteran talent that you need. These are the older players who understand what offenses are going to try to do and know how to finish plays. And the depth behind them might be just as exciting. Nasir Wyatt has added size and improved parts of his game that can keep him on the field more often. He is getting close to being unblockable. You already have a veteran defensive line, and now you may have another explosive pass rusher rotating in without the defense losing anything. Dutch Horrisk, he keeps emerging here as well. There was talk about him after the scrimmage this weekend. And this is how championship defensive lines are built. Not with 4 names, with waves of dudes who can come in after him. And the linebacker room is starting to look the same way too. I mean, Dylan Williams has one of the strongest scrimmages performances this weekend, I heard. Gavin Nix has been coming on. Jerry Mixon gives Oregon another dependable option. And then there is Devin Jackson. Look, this is where Oregon starts looking like somebody built a roster just in a video game, right? Jackson is about 235 pounds, has a 40-inch vertical, 675-pound back squat, and reached around 24 miles per hour at linebacker. Dan Lanning has said there may not be a faster linebacker in college football. The best part is that Jackson is completely healthy now too. Last year, injuries affected his preparation. This year, he has had a full off season and has been showing leadership, which is what you want, right? So Oregon may finally be getting the full version of Devin Jackson. And behind all of that, the secondary might be even deeper than people realize. Obviously, you got Brandon Finney. He's one of the top corners in the country. Neem Offord and Iffy O is what I call him, are battling for the spot opposite of him. That trio has a chance to be one of the best cornerback groups in the country Oregon has ever had as well. At star, Devin Benjamin and Carl Williams are pushing each other and both appear likely to play. This is the kind of competition coaches want. Not the who can we trust type of stuff. It is how do we get all of these guys on the field? And that brings me to the offense, where Dante Moore is going to cook this season. That's right. Dante Moore coming back. Everybody knows that. I'm not announcing any news here with that. That alone changes Oregon's ceiling. He had a chance to be the NFL, to go to the NFL and potentially be a very high draft pick. Instead, Oregon gets another season with an experienced quarterback who already knows the offense and has championship expectations. FanDuel has Oregon at minus 340 to make the college football playoffs. That is the second best odds in the country, the best in the Big Ten. It does not guarantee anything by any means, but it tells you how seriously this team is being viewed. The question is whether the offense around Moore can hold up it's in. So far, there are a lot of reasons to believe it can. Gatlin Blair had a huge scrimmage as well. He was targeted often, led the team in catches, and made a deep connection that may have been the play of the day, which if you're an Oregon fan after last season, you want to see those deep connections in the big games for sure. Brandon Smith is pushing for the RB3 role and has already been described more than once as a freak. He's not just fast, he's a complete back who can hit a home run whenever he gets the ball. De'Aaron Hill is also taking a step forward. Everyone knew about his explosiveness. What matters is that he's improving in pass protection and rounding out his game too. And then, of course, tight end, absolute monster. Jamari Johnson is already a matchup problem. Kendry Harrison is not far behind him and keeps becoming more comfortable with the playbook. Oregon has even mixed in some fullback packages as well. So this offense may be able to spread it out, hit explosive plays, and then turn around and get heavy and knock you on your butt. That is a nightmare for teams to prepare for. But now we get to the one thing that could determine everything: the offensive line. This is still the biggest question on the roster. Oregon is moving players around, testing combinations, and sounds like there could be a real surprise when the starting five is announced. But there are positive signs to that, right? Douglas Utu had a really strong scrimmage and is becoming increasingly difficult to imagine outside the starting lineup. Zaire Anderson is getting consistent work at tackle and has really turned a corner there. Dave Luley is limited right now, but nobody is being handed a job when he returns. Competition is deciding all of this. And in the scrimmage, the offensive line held up pretty well in pass protection from what I was told. The run blocking still has room to improve, but if Oregon can protect Dante Moore against the defensive front in practice, that is a very encouraging sign because, like I said, this is probably the best defensive front in college football, if not second best out there. That is the real reason I am buying the Oregon hype. It's not just one star. Is the combination of it all. A veteran quarterback, maybe the best defensive line Oregon has ever had, elite speed at linebacker, a loaded secondary, young offensive playmakers breaking out, and an offensive line that appears to be finding answers instead of creating more problems. Then, add one more thing. At the end of the scrimmage, after conditioning, players were asking for more. They were asking for more. They're hungry. They were asking for more work, more reps, more conditioning. Lanning pointed out that as a sign of player-led character of this team. Now, that happens more often than you think, so I'm not out here like preaching something that doesn't ever happen in college football. But when your most talented teams become your most player-led teams, that is usually when something special can happen. Because talent is great to have, but you have to lead it. And you have to put it in the right position. Oregon has been close before, but this roster has fewer obvious weaknesses. They have more veteran stars and more young players pushing for meaningful roles than almost any Oregon team we have seen. The question now is simply, is this finally the Oregon team that finishes the job? Is this finally the Oregon team that puts it together and makes it happen? I think it could be. You look at this Oregon team and you look at what Ohio State was back in 2024. You look at what Michigan was back in 2023. Heck, even Indiana in 2025 to some extent. They didn't have like the star talent that Oregon has this season, but they have all the talent they need. And the thing that people don't get about Mehringer and Chris Hampton is that these guys were getting ready for this spot. It was always the plan for these guys to take over. In fact, it kind of happened a year late for one of them, right? I mean, they were planning to get those guys in there sooner. Would I feel better with, Tosh Lupoy and those guys back? I mean, maybe, but they weren't exactly perfect coordinators either. Maybe you get them doing exactly what Dan Lanning wants. Maybe you get them exactly in the right position, right? To me, that is the only question mark with this Oregon team is what do the coordinators do? What do they put it all together with? And that's something that I don't think we will necessarily get an answer for the entire time during the season. But we'll see. It's going to be a great year for Oregon. I think they have the most talented roster in all of college football. And if they can capitalize on that and be a player-led team, a team that plays with confidence, a team that's put in the right positions by their coordinators, this Oregon team is going to win the national championship this year. But it's a big if, because you also got Ohio State. You also got Indiana. You also got Texas. You also got Notre Dame. You also got Georgia. there are some really good teams out there this season in college football, and boy, am I ready for it. Thank you so much for listening and watching the Big Ten Huddle, presented and brought to you by FanDuel. We appreciate you being here. Please do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff for us. And hey, check us out over on podcasts and on YouTube, wherever you're listening here. Give us a follow, subscribe over there to make sure you never miss a Big Ten Huddle episode. Have a good one, everybody. We appreciate it. See you next time.